FDA approved the use of Kisqali, Ribociclib, in early stage breast cancer at a higher risk of recurrence. This was based on the results of the NATALY study. Now, I've talked about the NATALY study before, but let's break it down a little bit once again. So there is a class of medications called CDK4/6 inhibitors that are given in conjunction with endocrine therapy. They were first approved for use in metastatic breast cancer and then moved to early stage breast cancer. So prior to today, only one CDK4/6 inhibitor was approved with endocrine therapy for early stage breast cancer at a higher risk of recurrence, and that was Verzenio or abemaciclib. And we've been eagerly awaiting the results of the NATALY trial, which looks at a different CDK4/6 inhibitor, which is ribociclib. Now, the studies are different. They tested different patient populations. We're going to focus on the NATALY study because that's the approval. So this is for patients with anatomic stage 2 or stage 3 disease. Sometimes you might get a prognostic stage with your oncologist or your surgeon, which takes into account not just size and lymph nodes, which factor into the anatomic stage, but also your ER and your PR and HER2 and grade. And so we're going to take that out of it. So it's for anatomic stage 2 and stage 3, hormone receptor positive, HER2 negative breast cancer. Any patients with positive lymph nodes were automatically eligible for the study. If you were lymph node negative, you either had to have grade 3 disease, or if you had grade 2 disease, you either had to have a Ki-67 of greater than 20% or high genomic risk, either based on Oncotype or Mammaprint. So it's pretty specific in terms of the eligibility criteria if you're lymph node negative, and then all lymph node positive patients were allowed to be part of the study. Again, anatomic stage 2 and stage 3. So anatomic stage 1 disease not included in that study. And the original results presented about a little over a year ago showed that adding ribociclib to an aromatase inhibitor reduced the risk of recurrence or death from breast cancer by 25%, which translated into an about 3% absolute benefit. We saw the results of the 4-year follow-up presented at the ESMO conference just this week, which actually shows that the benefit now starts to improve and is up to about 5% of an absolute benefit and lowers the risk of recurrence by about 28.5%. So similarly to what we've seen with Verzenio, the longer the follow-up, the greater the benefit. Couple of things to keep in mind about this study. One, ribociclib is given in the study at 400 milligrams daily pill, 3 weeks on, 1 week off. It cannot be given with tamoxifen. So people had to have been on an aromatase inhibitor, and premenopausal women were given ovarian suppression. And patients started on this medication within no more than a year after being on prior endocrine therapy. So one of the questions that comes up is, well, I've been on an anastrozole for 3 years. Can I go on the Kisqali now? And we don't have any data to say that that is going to be effective. And so that's something to keep in mind. The approval is, again, is based on the study where you had to have been on endocrine therapy for no more than 1 year. I'll do a separate video talking more in detail about CDK4/6 inhibitor side effects, but a couple of things to keep in mind about Kisqali is that we do require EKGs for the first few weeks of monitoring. It can lower your blood count, so we're coming in for the blood count monitoring, and it can raise liver enzymes. So those are things that are a little bit different compared to Verzenio. It does not cause as much of the GI side effects that Verzenio does. And, lastly, how will we decide Verzenio versus Kisqali for patients that are eligible for both? I think that's really going to be an individual discussion. There is a number of patients that were not eligible for Verzenio that will now be eligible for Kisqali because it includes that lymph node negative population that Verzenio doesn't. But really, it's going to be a discussion between you and your doctor about what to do, which one maybe makes more sense based on side effect profile. Verzenio is also 2 years, Kisqali is 3 years, so there's a little bit of a difference there. So that's the NATALY study and the approval in a very quick nutshell, but let me know your questions and we'll